Yeah, that might be outdated.
Call this meeting of the Miami Township Board of Trustees to order. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Posey,
Here.
Mr. Morris. Here. Mr. Culp. Here.
Chief Stiegelmeier, you have the reading of military casualties and first responder casualties.
Good evening, Board. The following is the first responder casualty list for the period of April 6th through April 19th of 2022. Fire Chief Darren Kroll, Elwood Volunteer Fire Department, Nebraska. End of watch April 7th, 2022. Firefighter Brendan Bessie, Salt River Fire Department, Arizona. End of watch April 8th, 2022. Fire Lieutenant Philip Weigel, Town and Country Fire District, Ohio. End of watch April 11th, 2022. And while the final is not an in the line of duty death, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of Pat McCoy, whose end of watch was 4/13 of 22.
Thank you, Chief. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We have no guests or presentations during the formal agenda. The next item is the consent agenda. I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris.
Aye.
Mr. Culp. Aye.
Next item on the agenda is new business. The first item is resolution number 36-2022, a resolution approving participation in Region 8 governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding. Administrator Hess.
Yes, sir. Back in February, the board passed Resolution 23-2022, which was to participate in a One Ohio program. Region 8, which is Montgomery County, recently met on March 25th, 2022, to create their own structure. This resolution is approving that structure and our participation in that agreement. And Mr. Morris, if you have anything else you want to add to that.
No, I'd just like to commend Judy Dodge, County Commissioner, for her work in putting this group together. There was a recent notice going out to all municipalities, cities, counties in the state offering services of the Ohio Attorney General to try to create these, help communities put these things together. So our county's done a wonderful job of getting a structure put together in a short timeline, and I like the structure that is being proposed.
Anything else? The next two resolutions are Mr. Carlson, number 37-2022, a resolution to accept the resignation of a zoning commission member, and a resolution to appoint a zoning commission regular member.
We have been notified by one of our zoning commission members, Mr. Zachary Dickerson, that he is unfortunately moving out of Miami Township and is no longer eligible to serve on the township zoning commission. He submitted his letter of resignation March 20, 2022. Unfortunately, leaving us, we greatly appreciated his service. We were a well-attended member, previously served on the township board of zoning appeals. So staff certainly appreciates Mr. Dickerson's service. With that, if you have a vacancy on the township zoning commission, regular membership, Ms. Jane Hayden, who currently serves as alternate on the zoning commission, has expressed interest in the vacancy. Staff certainly feels that she is qualified for appointment to the regular membership position.
Any discussion or questions? Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Mr. McCord, you have resolutions number 39-2022, number 40-2022, and number 41-2022 involving transfer of funds and a resolution to approve an amended appropriation of funds.
Yes, sir, that's true. The Resolution 39 is to approve the transfer related to the retirement of two former Miami Township firefighters as a result of the merger and the creation of the Miami Valley Fire District. The benefits to be paid out at retirement were set at the time of the formation of the district, and we reimburse the district for our portion of that. We also maintain a reserve here at the township for those benefits in anticipation of those retirements. Resolution 40 and 41 are related to judicial judgment against the township in late 2021, and this was the compensation paid to the officer, and it also, we moved the funds out. It's Resolution 40 moves the funds out of the reserve accounts into to pay for it. 41 will actually approve an amended appropriation to actually pay those benefits back out as a result of that judgment. Be happy to try to answer any questions I can.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll now move into the public comment period. A citizen desiring to speak on agenda items or items not on the agenda may do so under this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and the Board of Trustees may not take immediate action. Items introduced or discussed may become agenda items for later meetings. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and I will keep your time.
Well, good evening to the trustees as well as the other Miami Township officials here this evening. My name is Paul Lay. I'm a resident of Vienna Woods Trail, and I've been a proud, happy resident in Miami Township for the last 20 years. I'd like to speak this evening about the upcoming vote on May 3rd concerning energy aggregation, and the fact that you're asking in that vote for approval to hire an energy consulting firm, Treble Energy. Were you required to have an open bid to hire a consultant?
As I've indicated, we do not have we do not respond directly to questions during this comment
All
period,
right.
but if that's the issue you've raised, we might
Okay.
address it later.
All right, I just had a question whether you had an open bid, and if so, perhaps how many additional firms you invited to bid besides Treble. Secondly, it's a little difficult if you're not going to respond, but that's okay. I'm curious how much the township's going to pay Treble, if it's a fixed fee for the 2-year and 3-year programs, since they're different for gas and electric, where those funds are coming from, what's the length of the contract that you're going to enter in with them. And I'm wondering if it would be better to allow the individual to determine their own rates, since at the PUCO site, one can look at every available supplier of both gas and electric, and perhaps take these funds and use them for other needed purposes within the township, such as perhaps raising pay for first responders is just simply an idea. The internet, of course, the PUCO invites people to go in under apples and apples to find out what their best rates might be. Curious if Treble is paying the township, how those dollars will be used, and then I'm interested in what constitutes a majority vote, since that is what's being asked for approval. Is it one vote more than negative, or is it a percentage of the vote? Also questioning why you'd allow a potential vendor to the township to send out a piece of communication when it's not coming from the trustees. We, the citizens, have voted for the trustees to represent us and to be good stewards of our tax dollars. Treble, their people are not part. They are not part of the trustees, obviously. If someone attends the meeting, they're already. Let's see. The interesting thing is that you were to hold 2 open trustee meetings and publish those minutes on the internet. Curious what percentage of residents you feel attends meetings and looks into the internet for meetings in order to get their communication from you. And even if one attends and looks
Sir, your time's expired, but you may briefly conclude.
Is my time up?
Yeah.
Okay,
You
fine.
feel free to briefly
That's
conclude.
okay. I think the major question is that if one glances, first of all, at the Treble bulletin, there's some inconsistencies on that. And secondly, I think the main issue is one of communication. I know, and probably in your charter, you state how many trustee meetings are scheduled and when they're scheduled, and you also post your meeting minutes on the internet. But in a situation like this, which is dealing with personal people's finances, I think you need to go a step further in terms of communication. My recommendation would be, if you're able to get a approval on May 3rd, that rather than sticking with attend meetings and look at minutes, I would recommend putting together a card, a simple brochure outlining everything in specifics, particularly the dates and times of the 2 hearings that you're required to have after you want to plug in or when you get your plan put together, simply so that everyone has a chance to understand what it is that's going on and what they're going to be signing up for or not signing up for. Thanks for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Robert Jensen, 6986 Rosecliff Place. First, I'd like to thank the chief. I really appreciate your speed limit signs there by the park, and hopefully it's going to make some progress for us. We do see quite a few people slowing down when they see them, and hopefully the data will bear that out. I'm also here to talk about the energy aggregate. I don't quite understand some of the issues here. This is like the best kept secret in Miami Township until somebody posted it on our neighborhood Facebook page. Why is it such a secret? Why have the trustees not taken an initiative to inform the citizens in an open way what is at stake here? You're asking the citizens to vote, and if you look at the ballot language, obviously it was written very intentionally to try to get it to pass, because it specifically references picking energy and maybe saving lower or having lower cost. That is not a transparent way of doing business in the township. You're asking the voters to automatically be enrolled in an aggregate if they don't opt out. Why are we doing an opt-out program rather than an opt-in? Why are you making it harder on your residents to opt out of this? I don't understand that. And the third thing is, do you know anything about Boyne Capital Partners, and how did the township get aligned with Treble in the first place? There are lots of energy brokers. Where's the public record on the dealings between the trustees and Treble? There are Sunshine Acts. There is a Sunshine Act, right? Nothing can be done without public announcement. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's there. But I will tell you, here we are 2 weeks before the election, and I haven't met a single Miami Township citizen in my office, in my dental office, or on the street who is aware of this as even being on the ballot. It seems a little shady and a little sneaky. Now, the next thing I'd like to say is, this is a public forum to be able to discuss things, and yet the trustees, you refuse to actually have a discussion during these forums, and this would be the most appropriate place to have it. So this concept you have, allowing people to come in and speak for 3 minutes with no engagement in conversation whatsoever, is not in the best interest of your constituents. This is the time when we should be able to have discussions, when somebody should be able to ask you a question. How did you get tied in with Treble? Why them? Why are we doing this aggregate? But no, you just sit there and listen, and you don't provide any opportunity whatsoever to discuss it. I think you really need to change the way you're doing your business at these meetings. If your idea is just to come here and sit at a meeting for 35 or 40 minutes and go home and get your trustee paycheck, that doesn't quite work. So all I'm asking is, make these meetings more meaningful so when people come here to talk, they can get answers to the question. Because I tell you, I'm not the only person asking these questions. There are a lot of people asking them. That's all I have to say. And thank you again.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Turton, 6600 Jamaica Road, Miami Township. This is roughly the 7th time I've addressed the board in regards to the Stony Hill Wedding and Event Center over on Upper Miamisburg Road. It's continuing to be a nuisance to the public interest in our side of the river. I just want to bring it to the board's attention that although the injunction, I believe, has been in place by Montgomery County Judge Skelton back November 15th, if I'm correct, injuncting the actions that take place at the event center. We've had 3 weddings or events since. Now, the ones in January, I kind of ignored. I do have documentation. They've been forwarded to the township of those events. I believe it was January 6th and probably New Year's Eve time. But it's been then quiet until wedding season, which started last Friday night with a rehearsal dinner, I believe, and then another wedding on Saturday, where I have to sit in my living room and worry about the prosperity of my animals every 5 minutes, looking out at the fence line to see if anybody's going to walk over and inappropriately feed my animals from the event center. The individuals who are there at the facility still are no ties to the actual ownership. They are just renters of the event center. They have free reign, a range of the area, and that's what I'm continuing to bring up to the board, that this is going on. Irrespective of the injunction, the actions are continuing. And as we move into the busy wedding season of April and May and June, I can see myself calling the police every Friday, every Saturday, and reporting that there's a nuisance at the property that is contiguous to mine. If you have any questions for me, I will be openly ready to accept.
Thank you for your report, sir.
Pardon?
Thank you for your report.
No questions?
So, Mr. Hess, do you have a perspective on what the situation is right now, or Chief Stegelmeyer, what our options are? Yes, so thank you, Board. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your comments. At this point, we got your notice. We checked with my Township Police Department. We're able to get their call record. This has been transmitted to our legal counsel. So we are discussing next steps for potential filing for common pleas in regard to their injunction. So we continue that conversation with legal counsel on their advice on how to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public comment period? We'll now move into consideration of resolutions and motions. I will make a motion that we approve resolution number 36-2022, a resolution approving participation in Region 8 governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 37-2022, a resolution to accept the resignation of a zoning commission member, Mr. Zachary Dickerson.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I will make a motion that we approve resolution number 38-2022, a resolution to appoint a zoning commission regular member, Jane Heaven. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 39-2022, a resolution to approve a transfer of funds from the Fire Deferred Benefits Fund number 360 to Fire Fund number 210 for the retirement payout of a former Miami Township Fire Department employee.
I will second. Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 40-2022, a resolution to approve a transfer of funds from the Police Stabilization Fund number 299 to the Police Fund number 209, and a transfer of funds from the General Stabilization Fund number 191 to the General Fund number 101. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 41-2022, a resolution to approve an amended appropriation of funds for 2022.
I will second. Any discussion?
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
We have no public hearing. Department head comments. Chief Barnett, anything to share today?
Good evening, everyone. Just a few things to update everybody on. So we've had several firefighters that have put in their notice of resignation / retirement, and obviously that's part of your payouts tonight. In turn, we've been able to add a couple different people to replace them, so we're flush now, and that's a good thing for Miami Valley Fire District. We've actually had 2 different donations. We've had a donation of carbon monoxide detectors from the Firefighter Credit Union, which used to be Dayton Firefighters Credit Union, which are available to citizens. They contact our offices. We will install the carbon monoxide detectors into your home. And then in turn, we also have a smoke detector program now that we are able to get the smoke detectors through American Red Cross. So once again, contact our offices. We will install those in residents' homes from City of Miamisburg and Miami Township. Put together a recruitment video. Actually, it's yours truly in the recruitment video. So we worked on that today, so that way we can make sure we get the brightest and the best firefighters and paramedics in the area. And then just a reminder of everybody to make sure you're checking your smoke detectors. And it's getting to be grilling season, so make sure your grill is away from your home. It's not near any vinyl siding. Make sure it's not in the overhangs. So any questions for me about the district?
No, I saw the social media post about your video appearance today, so that was, you're getting marketing on marketing in that instance. So thank you for the report and for the good
We're
effort.
pretty lucky that one of our firefighters, Brian Scott, he's got a background. He actually filled me in on his background. That's what his bachelor's degree is in. So he actually did a really good job, and it took several takes for me to get it right, but hopefully it turns out well.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Chief, I'd like to thank you for your monthly reports. I think they're very thorough and precise. I'd like to suggest that maybe you add something to your monthly report.
Sure.
You were very kind enough to give me a report when asked about the number of hydrants out of service or in need of service. Was quite disappointed to find out we have 77 hydrants currently either in need of repair or out of service in the township. Given that that's how many in our township, I can only imagine how many are county-wide. The county has gotten a tremendous amount of funds through the CARES Act and through the American Rescue Plan. I think it would be wonderful if they would dedicate some of those funds to getting these hydrants repaired. And I don't think that'll happen unless we ask them to do that. And so tracking things, I think, gets action. So we've currently got 55 out of service, 22 in need of repair. I'd love to see that number every month and follow and track whether it's going down or up. And maybe even reference how many in the county, because I don't think our citizens of the county recognize how many hydrants just don't work. And if we've got the funds available in the county to dedicate it, then I think the county should get out and repair those hydrants. So thank you for sharing this information.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief Stiegelmeier, anything for the report?
Our calls for service about the same as always. Reports are taken, it's normal for this time of year. We're having our 3 new officers in the FTO program. They're coming right along as planned. Status quo for
Mr. Mayberry, anything?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Snyder, how was your trip to DC?
Sounds good. Very good. Discuss that further later if you want. Did want to just note regarding the question that was raised earlier on energy aggregation. Trouble Energy is an energy broker. There are several in the state that do that work. We did discuss that with several of them. At this point, the ballot measure that is on the ballot simply authorizes the board of trustees to enter into a negotiation and a contract at a later date with an energy supplier. Trouble Energy is not receiving any funds from the township, and the township is not receiving any funds from Trouble Energy. So, those are just facts as they stand at this point. Beyond that, there would be additional measures that would have to be taken by the board to actually enter into a contract with an energy supplier, if that was the desire of the board at that time. So based on the proposals that were made by the various energy suppliers.
But you told me something today, or yesterday, that we have some level of agreement with Treble, which is what?
To act as a broker on our behalf. So everything that's been done at this point is at their expense and their cost. We are not paying or providing them funds for
Okay.
It's at their risk, essentially. Entering into that agreement.
Right. I'm sorry. I thought what I heard you say could be interpreted as to mean that additional brokers or energy aggregation companies could come in and bid for the work or whatever, but you're saying no, that's not the case.
Not in terms of being a broker. Obviously, the individual energy suppliers that supply the electric or the gas will be able to provide quotes or bids for the actual
Right,
supply.
okay, I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Mr. McCord, anything?
Nothing at this time.
Administrator Hess.
Two minor things. One, I suggest that our citizens, if they have questions like this, staff is here all the time. Please meet with the staff. We can sit down with you one-on-one to go over all your questions. If you have concerns after that, then you can come talk at the public forum. My second is just to add on to something the chief said. We did lose a member of our family a couple weeks or a week ago. Pat McCoy passed away at the age of 59. He had 31 years of service here in Miami Township, retiring in 2020. Unfortunately, he lost his battle with cancer. So I just wish and hope that you all keep his friends and family in your thoughts and prayers as they say goodbye to him later on this week. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Hess, if you could perhaps share with those residents who've joined us here today, look up the dates and times. I know we had a study session on energy aggregation.
I'll address that during the elected officials' comments.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get through it. Elected officials' comments. Mr. Newell, do you have anything?
I have none.
Mr. Colt?
This is where we're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think at the time, I suggested that we should have had that work session out here so that it was videoed and that the community could see it. Instead, we had it in the adjoining room. I can't remember if I mentioned that to everyone or just to the township employees. My suggestion is that Treble came in and gave a presentation. And my suggestion was that Treble should come in and give a second presentation so that it could be videoed. And I'm still not sure why we didn't have that presentation out here. So,
Mr. Morris?
No, my only comment on this, the topic that was raised today is there was a study session. It was publicly advertised. They are always open to the public. Anyone can come in, join a study session, whether it's in this room or the adjoining room. Sometimes they last a short period of time, sometimes they last a very long period of time. It's just a matter of that's where all the information is shared. Trustees give their opinions, and Treble Energy came in and proposed to the township an opportunity to put aggregation on the ballot. The trustees ultimately discussed that, and then at a next meeting, there was a number of motions also publicly out here available for discussion. One was to put electric on the ballot, one was to put gas on the ballot, the other was for Treble to represent. The issue on picking someone to do this and the opt-in versus the opt-out is a matter of we want to put a broker in a position to negotiate the best possible rate for our residents, and then they'll have the option to choose that rate or not. But it's similar to economic development. When we have a piece of property that we want to sell, we can just throw it out there in the ether and let anybody try to throw us a price, or we can select a broker to represent us to try and sell that property. Without giving representation to a single broker, they don't have any leverage with suppliers. They don't have any leverage with buyers because they don't truly represent the entire township. So in this particular case, it's been kind of best practice proven across the state. Treble Energy happens to represent the most townships in the state of Ohio. They came in, presented their history of offering aggregation services to residents, and we said, yes, we think our residents should be able to choose whether or not they want a broker to go out and negotiate on behalf of the entire township. I fully appreciate and understand those who are very educated in this matter, who know how Ohio Energy Choice works, use the apples-to-apples comparison. I used to purchase natural gas supply when Dayton Power and Light was in the gas business, so I know this very well. The reality is the vast majority of our residents just take whatever the GCR rate is and they pay it. We hope that by going out and negotiating on behalf of our residents, that they'll have an option that will be less expensive than that. And then they'll still have the energy choice rates out there. So this locks residents into nothing. And I don't foresee this board passing anything other than a contract that will hopefully save people money. So that's why we're doing it. That's why we did it. And it's, again, up to the residents on May 3rd to choose whether or not they want to pass it or not. And it's interesting, some communities have passed it and some communities have not. So I just encourage everybody, and the last thing I'll mention with, I have encouraged the township to invest into a product called ClearGov, and it's a survey option where we can send out issues like this and get feedback from many more residents, because the reality is we have 5 people in the audience here. The night of aggregation discussion, we may have had 10, we may have had 0, I don't recall, but it's never a lot. It's never representative of all we are. So we have to find ways to get more people engaged in conversation. ClearGov is a product that I can think do that, but follow us on Facebook, follow our Twitter feeds, look at our agendas, come to the meetings. That's the only way we can truly get people engaged. So I appreciate the folks that have come here this evening.
I think if we were looking for community engagement, we would have had that presentation out here. And as far as ClearGov or Facebook polls or whatever you want to talk about, we have things called elections. And that's where our citizens choose their trustees. And they expect us to have a certain level of communication with them and to do business that way, and not to have a poll where, I'm sorry, that would be a very unrepresentative set of voters responding to a Facebook poll or ClearGov poll, and then come in here and make an argument that we should pass something based on a poll. The poll is called the election.
I'm sorry, the public comment period is closed, and
Dispense with the second reading on the aggregation. Why did you dispense with it? Because if I did, those people that had come to
I'm sorry, your public comment time is answered. I will answer your question as part of my comments. Mr. Culp, I'd like to address your concern about the work sessions. I'm happy to entertain any motions or objections or comments, but you did not comment when we went into work session about any issue leaving it in this room. And if I don't hear it from you, I don't know it's an issue, because it's been the practice since I joined the board to conduct work sessions in the conference room. To answer your question, since we have never not passed a motion by dispensing with the second reading, we have not, every resolution passed since I became a trustee has dispensed with a second reading in any form in any issue. This is because we publish the agendas online about the work sessions and the resolutions in the agendas before each meeting happens. The original meeting containing the work session was on January 18th, and the work session with Treble LLC was identified in that agenda. The agenda on February 2nd meeting identified the resolutions, including a description of the fact that we were seeking a resolution to authorize the levy issue of electric and natural gas aggregation to go on the ballot. And again, we had no comments on that day from anyone in the public regarding that issue. And lastly, I'm neither in support or against the concept of electric aggregation, but Treble LLC is used, as by Mr. Morris indicated, as an aggregate for a majority of the townships in the state of Ohio, as well as Clay Township, Jefferson Township, and Butler Township within Montgomery County.
And you are aware that they are owned by Boeing Capital Partners out of California. They are not a business in Ohio, but they're owned by a California company.
Your comment period is ended, and I will ask you to refrain from further comments, and we look forward to hearing them at future meetings, and whatever actions you wish to take in favor or against the levy would be welcomed by the citizens of Miami Township.
Is there, I'd like to ask, is there anyone that was in the work session that remembers me bringing up the fact that it would be good to have this presentation in the public on video?
I recall you asking that Treble come back and speak before the board,
Okay.
board in a public hearing.
Right, there
I
you
didn't
go.
recall any discussion before going into the work session that the work session should not be in the conference room.
No, but
Mr. Jensen, you're not allowed to speak anymore, and I'm going to have to ask you to either, we're going to end up asking you to leave or have someone ask you to leave. We have a public comment period and an order and an agenda for a reason. There is no further opportunity for public engagement.
You're not very transparent.
so my point here is we've had other presentations out here, and that's why I was confused about something that's going on the ballot, why we wouldn't have it out here and have it on video. I mean, we had the county refuse department come through annually and give us a presentation, I think, on recycling. So I just thought it seemed like the natural thing to do if we're putting something on the ballot.
Yeah, I'll have to check the record, but I do believe Treble Energy was in the room the night those three issues were the night those three resolutions were being offered. They came here and were available to be spoken to. There wasn't anybody here to ask them any questions, is my recollection. I could be wrong.
Well, what I'm getting at is I think their presentation would have been valuable to the public, and the public would have had better access to it if it had been filmed and on video like this meeting is right now on Facebook. And we lost that opportunity to inform the public. I do agree with that.
Did you put anything in writing? Mr. Jensen, your comment period is over. The next item on the agenda is a work session. I will make a motion that we recess into the conference room for a discussion of the American Rescue Plan funds. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Posey.
Aye.
Mr. Morris.
Aye.
Mr. Culp.
Aye.
There is no executive session. We will be adjourning without any further public work from the conference room. I will close the period at this time, and we will note for the minutes at the time that the meeting concludes. Thank you.